Welcome back to English Flow, the podcast where real conversations meet real English learning. I'm your host, Nathan, and today I am joined by the wonderful Sophia. We are diving into one of the most fascinating topics a human being can explore, the power of storytelling. How the stories we tell shape our culture, our identity, and even our understanding of truth itself. Sophia, welcome.
Nathan, thank you so much. I have been looking forward to this conversation all week. Storytelling is something I genuinely feel passionate about, not just as an academic concept, but as something I live every single day. So I am very excited to get into this with you.
Perfect. And I think that is exactly where we should start, because when most people hear the word storytelling, they immediately think of children's books or Hollywood movies. They think of fiction and entertainment. But you have always argued that storytelling is something much bigger than that. What do you mean by that?
Yes, and this is the misunderstanding I want to address right away. Storytelling is not just entertainment. It is the most powerful communication tool that human beings have ever developed. Think about it. Before writing existed, before schools existed, human beings sat around fires telling each other stories. And those stories carried everything: knowledge, values, history, warnings, identity. Everything that mattered to a community was transmitted through narrative. Storytelling is not decoration. It is the foundation of human civilization itself.
That is such a powerful way to frame it. And there's actually fascinating science behind this, isn't there? The brain responds to stories in a very unique way.
Absolutely. Neuroscientists have discovered that when you receive raw data, numbers, statistics, dry facts, only a small part of your brain activates. But when you hear a story, your entire brain lights up. The language centers, the sensory areas, even the motor cortex. All of it engages simultaneously. And there's a phenomenon called neural coupling, where the brain of the storyteller and the brain of the listener begin to synchronize, almost like two instruments playing in harmony. That is why a great story can make you feel like you're inside it, living it, rather than simply hearing it.
Neurocoupling. What a beautiful phrase. Let's pause there for a quick vocabulary moment because this is English Flow and we love to learn naturally. Sophia, break that down for us.
Of course. Neural, Neural, is an adjective relating to the nerves or nervous system. You will hear it in phrases like neural pathways, neural networks, neural activity. The root is neuron, which is the basic unit of the brain. Coupling, Coupling, comes from the verb to couple, meaning to connect or link two things together. So neural coupling means the synchronizing of brain activity between two people. It is a technical term, but once you know it, it appears frequently in psychology, neuroscience, and communication literature.
Perfect. And what I love about learning vocabulary this way, inside a real, meaningful conversation, is that your brain is far more likely to retain it, which is ironically storytelling doing its work on you as a learner right now.
Exactly right. The podcast itself is a demonstration of the very principle we are discussing. Now, Nathan, I want to move to something that I think is deeply personal and deeply important, which is the relationship between storytelling and identity, because I believe this is where the real power lies.
Yes, let's go there, because you have argued that our sense of self is fundamentally a story. Explain that.
Think about how you answer the question, who are you? Most people do not recite biological facts. They tell a story. They say, I grew up in a difficult environment, I discovered a passion for language, I went through challenges that changed me, and here I am today. That is a narrative, and that narrative is your identity. The psychologist Dan McAdams calls this narrative identity theory, the idea that human beings organize their experience, their memories, and their sense of self through story. And the extraordinary implication of this is that if your identity is a story, it is not fixed. It can be rewritten. Moments of failure can be reframed as turning points. Pain can be repositioned as the origin of wisdom. That is not denial, that is authorship.
Authorship of your own life. I love that framing, and I want to highlight a word you use, to reframe. This is a very important word in modern English, especially in psychology and coaching. To reframe something means to look at it from a completely different perspective, to place it in a new frame of meaning. The prefix re means again, and frame refers to the context through which we see something. So to reframe is literally to see something again, differently. Advanced learners, add this word to your active vocabulary immediately. And while we are on vocabulary, I want to introduce one more beautiful word that is central to storytelling. Verisimilitude. Verisimilitude. It comes from the Latin veris, meaning true, and similis, meaning similar. Verisimilitude refers to the quality that makes a story feel believable and authentic, even when it is entirely fictional. A story with high verisimilitude makes you forget you are reading fiction because the characters, the emotions, and the world all feel completely real. That is a gorgeous word, and it connects to something every great storyteller understands, that the goal is not factual accuracy, but emotional and experiential authenticity. The reader must feel that what is happening could happen, that the characters could exist. Now, I want to bring the conversation into the present because we live in an era where storytelling has been completely transformed by social media and digital platforms. How has that changed things? It has changed things in ways that are both exciting and deeply troubling. On one hand, digital technology has democratized storytelling. Anyone with a smartphone can share their story and reach millions of people. Voices that were historically silent now have platforms. That is genuinely revolutionary. But on the other hand, the algorithms that govern these platforms do not reward truth or nuance. They reward emotional engagement, specifically outrage, fear, and moral indignation. So the stories that spread most widely are not the most accurate ones. They are the most emotionally activating ones. And that creates a very dangerous information environment. So the algorithm has become a kind of storytelling editor, but one with no interest in truth, only in clicks and emotional reaction. Precisely. And the consequences are real. Political polarization, the erosion of shared reality, the spread of misinformation. When different groups are consuming entirely different algorithmic story feeds, they stop sharing a common understanding of the world. And when that happens, genuine communication becomes almost impossible. This is why media literacy, the ability to critically analyze the stories we are told, is one of the most urgent skills of our time. And this connects directly to our listeners as English learners, because one of the greatest gifts that deep language learning gives you is access to multiple storytelling traditions. When you can genuinely inhabit the English language, not just translate it, but think and feel in it, you gain access to an enormous range of perspectives, narratives, and ways of understanding the world. That is one of the most underrated benefits of advanced language learning.
Completely agree. Language is not just a communication tool, it is a lens. Each language you acquire gives you a new way of interpreting human experience. And bilingual people, research suggests, actually develop a greater capacity for perspective taking, for holding multiple viewpoints simultaneously, for navigating ambiguity, all of which are exactly the skills needed to be what I call a discerning narrative consumer.
Discerning, D-I-S-C-E-R-N-I-N-G, a wonderful adjective. To discern means to perceive something with clarity and insight, especially something not immediately obvious. A discerning person has excellent judgment. They can distinguish quality from mediocrity, truth from manipulation. For example, she is a discerning reader who never wastes time on shallow books. Advanced learners, this word will immediately elevate the sophistication of your English.
And before we close, I want to say something to every listener directly. You, right now, are engaged in your own act of storytelling. The story you are telling is about someone who chose to invest in themselves, who decided that language and ideas matter, who is building something meaningful. That story is real, and it has power. Do not underestimate it.
That is the perfect note to end on. And here's your challenge for the comments today. Think of one story from your culture, your family, or your own life that changed the way you see the world. Write it below in English. Even if it is imperfect, write it. The act of writing it is already practice. And if this episode added something to your inner world today, please share it with someone on a language learning journey. You might just change their story.
Today was a truly enriching conversation. Nathan, thank you for creating this space. And to everyone who listened until the end, that says everything about who you are.
Thank you, Sophia, and thank you everyone for being here. Keep listening, keep learning, and keep telling your story. This has been English Flow. I am Nathan.
And I am Sophia.
See you in the next episode.
Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.